of a heart-shaped, multicolored logo aimed at promoting inclusion and diversity in soccer.
The 2022 World Cup in Qatar produced the clearest case of FIFA shutting down a player protest. 7 European nations, including England, Germany, the Netherlands, and Wales, had planned for their captains to wear a multicolored armband called One Love, a quiet statement in favor of inclusion and against discrimination. Then, just hours before the opening matches on November 21, 2022, FIFA made its position plain. Any captain who wore the armband would be shown a yellow card the moment he stepped onto the pitch, and further penalties could follow. The federations backed down within the day, saying they could not put their players in that position. England's Harry Kane wore a FIFA-approved armband instead. No captain was ever carded because none went against the order, but the protest itself was effectively silenced before it began.
In their team photo, ahead of kickoff, covering their mouths.
Germany's national team answered FIFA's armband ban with one of the most memorable images of the tournament. Before their opening match against Japan on November 23, 2022, the entire starting 11 posed for the team photo with their hands clamped over their mouths. The message was unmistakable. They felt they were being silenced. The German Federation declared that human rights are non-negotiable and that being denied the armband felt like being muzzled. FIFA confirmed the team would face no punishment for the gesture itself. The German Federation went further, lodging a case with the Court of Arbitration for Sport over the ban, though the challenge did not overturn anything during the tournament. The protest cost the players nothing on the field, but it became a lasting symbol of the standoff.
The Soccer World Cup armband wars have escalated.
The fallout from the armband ban reached well beyond the pitch, into the world of sponsorship. Rewe, one of Germany's largest supermarket chains and a partner of the German Football Federation since 2008, announced on November 22, 2022, that it was ending its association with the team. This was no small gesture from a company with annual sales measured in the tens of billions of euros. Its chief executive, Lionel Souk, said the company stood for diversity, that football was diversity too, and that FIFA's stance was unacceptable to him both as a business leader and as a fan of the game. It was a striking reversal, a major sponsor walking away not because of anything the players did, but because of how football's governing body had treated them. In October 2024, more than 100 professional women footballers put their names to a blunt and very public rebuke of FIFA. The players, 106 of them from 24 countries, signed an open letter to FIFA president Gianni Infantino, objecting to a major sponsorship deal with the Saudi state oil company Aramco, which had been announced earlier that year. The letter did not hold back, calling the partnership a middle finger to women's football, and warning that FIFA might as well pour oil on the pitch and set it alight. The signatories included some of the biggest names in the women's game, among them former United States captain Becky Sauerbrunn and Dutch star Vivianne Miedema. FIFA defended the deal, saying the revenue it brings is reinvested into the women's game. The players faced no penalty, but the deal stood. In 2014, a group of the world's best women footballers brought a case against FIFA at a human rights tribunal. Led by the American star Abby Wambach and backed by more than 60 players from around the world, they argued that staging the 2015 Women's World Cup on artificial turf, while the men always played on natural grass, amounted to unequal treatment. The case named both FIFA and the Canadian organizers. The players eventually withdrew the complaint in January 2015 after being denied a fast-tracked hearing, and the tournament went ahead on turf. There was a sharper edge to the story, too. 3 players said they were warned they might be left off their national teams if they pressed on, and all 3 stepped away from the case. The next Women's World Cup, in 2019, was played on grass. In 2024, one of the world's finest midfielders gave voice to a growing frustration among players over how much football they are asked to play. Speaking in September, Manchester City and Spain star Rodri said the players were close to taking the drastic step of refusing to play, telling reporters that if you asked almost any player, they would say the same thing. He argued that a footballer can perform at the highest level in 40 to 50 matches a season, but that many were now facing 70 or even 80. His comments came as player unions launched formal legal challenges against FIFA over its crowded international calendar and expanded competitions. In a sad twist, Rodri suffered a serious knee injury just days later, underlining the very concern he had raised. The heaviest price of all was paid not by famous players, but by two women who worked inside the World Cup bidding process and chose to speak. Phaedra Al-Majid, who had worked for the Qatar 2022 bid, and Benita Murciades, a senior figure in Australia's bid, both gave evidence to an official investigation into how host nations were chosen. They had been promised their cooperation would stay confidential. When a summary of the investigation was published in November 2014, both said their identities were effectively exposed. Al-Majid described receiving alarming online messages, aimed even at her children, and was later offered protection by the FBI, saying she would be looking over her shoulder for years. Both women also found their credibility publicly questioned by football's authorities. Their careers in the game were over, and their experience stands as the starkest example of what spucking out can cost. Denmark went into the 2022 World Cup as one of the most outspoken teams of all, and FIFA pushed back. Months before the tournament, the Danish Federation and its kitmaker, Hummel, unveiled deliberately muted jerseys, with the logo and the team's famous markings faded almost to invisibility, plus an all-black shirt that Hummel said stood for mourning. It was a pointed statement about the human cost of the tournament's construction. Denmark then asked FIFA for permission to train in shirts reading "Human Rights for All." In November 2022, FIFA rejected the request, citing its rules against political messages on kit. The federation's chief executive said the team believed the message was universal rather than political, but had to accept FIFA's ruling. It was another clear instance of football's governing body deciding which words its players were allowed to wear.